Welcome to the Top Style Show. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. We're so excited today. Brenden Kumarasamy, all the way from Montreal, Canada. He is, unlike the press secretary, it's not Canada and all that's going on the TV. I'm like, oh, somebody misspoke, and that's the news all of a sudden. But I'm going to say it correctly, Canadian, and he's Canada. And it's freezing over there, but he's still with us right here in California. He's gonna. So Brenden, when I saw him, I was like, wait a second. These are old people stuff. Communications. This is what Tony Robbins and old people do. Young people, they want to be streamers. They want to have some kind of jobs that I've never heard of. And Brenden is taking on this industry. I'm like, this guy, he has a huge, so many years ahead of him. And then I watched some of his videos. I was like, this guy's going places. There is something about him. This is the one. So today we're gonna talk about communication, storytelling, things like that. We're gonna discuss with Brenden, and he owns a company called Master Talk. He has a YouTube channel, a lot of followers, a lot of viewers, and so informational. His videos are most videos you watch a little bit and like, okay, let's go to the next. You gotta watch it. Because he got the tips, he got the style, and you're like, okay, that's something I can use. It's not something he says and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's good for you. But you're like, oh, I can use that and be better myself, So there's just so many tips and tricks and, the communication skills, the communication stuff in his video. He's a very, very smart guy. We love to have him. Brenden, it's an honor to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. Brenden, let's get to the story first. I love storytelling. I'm like, if you tell me stories, I will sit there whole day and listen to you. That's who I am. I love it. So, tell me your story. How did this all begin? What inspired you? How did you get in here?
Absolutely, Tom. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on the show. It's so great to be here. And in terms of the story, what happened was when I was in college, I went to business school, and my dream was to be an accountant, funny enough. That's what I wanted to do. I was a numbers guy. Yeah, it was completely left field. And while I was studying in accounting, what happened is two things. The first one is I competed in these things called case competitions, Tom. Think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So while other guys my age are playing football or rugby or baseball, I wasn't one of those guys. I did presentations competitively. The second thing that happened that you'd be surprised to know, because I know you're in the tech space, is I was a venture capitalist. And the reason I got into VC really early in my career was because some of the funds had student-run funds. And the thesis behind those funds, Tom, was that a lot of the general partners who run venture capital firms, they realized that a lot of students start big companies like Snapchat and Facebook, but they don't have time to source those deals. So they make students general partners within the firm, give them small little checks that they write for different students that they really like. So I got into venture really early too. Then what happened is a few years later, the reason I got the idea for Master Talk was because as I was getting older, I started coaching the other students in the program, in that case competition program, on how to communicate ideas. And then the tech CEOs that I was helping with their pitch, I realized that a lot of them couldn't afford a pitch coach because they were just getting started in their life and their businesses. So that's what prompted Master Talk. I started making YouTube videos on communication and public speaking because I saw a gap in the market. There's a lot of tips on communication that nobody was sharing for free. So I wanted to make that difference in the world.
Wow, Brenden. So you got into venture capital space as a young student in college, and you wanted to be. So did you study accounting? Did you complete the degree?
Yeah, I completely.
So you are an accountant.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Out of all the people in the communication space, accountant doesn't really ring the bell. I'm like, okay, that guy studied finance. Okay, communications. Maybe he went in there. But accounting? Wow, so you were a numbers guy and you worked with the venture capital. What's the name of the venture capital company?
Absolutely. So it's called Front Row Ventures. So Real Ventures is a VC fund in Canada. It's one of the biggest early stage seed funds. And then they had a 600K fund within their bigger fund that was Front Row Ventures. Yeah.
Wow, Front Row Ventures, and you were sitting in the front row of that venture, man. And now you have the Master Talk venture. This is incredible. So you learned that. Now, this case study thing. So what is this? For Americans, we have less knowledge of things. There's something I gotta tell you. I thought of it. I was like, when I was watching you, there's three people I can think of when I think of Canada in the communication space. Just three people. One is you, Brenden Kumarasamy. The other one is Chamath Palihapitiya. He's Canadian and he's a Sri Lankan descent, and then and he's the unbelievable communicator. He talks and I'm like, what did he just say? Whoa, okay, it'll take me like 5 years to unfold what he said in 5 minutes. And then you got Jordan Peterson. Oh my God, it's a whole world of information, squeezed into one. He just goes on. I'm like, is Canada making everybody a philosopher? What's happening here? Is there philosophy? Did you take that class in college?
Well, first of all, Tom, I'm humbled that you compared me with Chamath Palihapitiya and Jordan Peterson, and you're saying, despite all the success you've had, you said, and the third guy is Brenden. So I'm very humbled that you said that. So, no, unfortunately, there wasn't a philosophy class. I just spent a lot of time thinking, and I'm sure the book you recommend to people, I'm sure in the startup space, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, right, really changed my philosophy on how to build the future, right, how to think about powerful questions. So I just listened to a lot of deep thinkers. Like I'm a big fan of Chamath's podcast as well. I listen to All In all the time. So it's all about I listen to so many different perspectives. And I think the difference with my generation, Tom, is all of that information has become a commodity. So when I was growing up in my 20s, all of that information was available for free. Whereas 20 years ago, you had to go to the library. You had to sift it out through different documents. Whereas me, I listened to hundreds of different podcasts. So I learned all of these things really rapidly in life.
Yeah, this is where I always worry. Back in our time, there were CDs. I had there were network marketing companies. They had these motivational speakers. They used to give you CDs, and I listened to a lot of them because they ask you questions. And I was kind of nerdy in my life, so I made sure I know all the information contained in the CD, but without actually thinking it's a motivational talk. They are not very information specific, So I had all where that guy was born, whatever happened to him, and they were like, "Wow, how do you know that? What? Why do you even know that?" So then with the CD now, then came the YouTube, right? So everybody and the streaming, the TikToks and the short videos, then I wondered, then why would somebody pay for things? But then somebody told me, now the scale is so much unbelievable. There is always more customers now than there used to be, And when so then I tested it out. I listened to one of the guys for fund management. He talks about how to manage your own fund type thing, and I was his name is Bridger Pennington, and I listened to him and I thought, I got enough information. Let me buy one of his courses just for the fun. And then I realized, man, this actually works. This new idea of providing free information to the world, giving free service, has it does the job. It does what it intends to do plus more. What do you think about that?
Absolutely, Tom. I definitely think you're hitting the nail on the head here. One of my mentors told me this. So he says, information is free, but implementation is the fee. So what does that mean? That means when you use information, it becomes a content marketing strategy to develop trust. Of course, for me, the intention is greater than just building a business, right? Because I think the next Elon Musk is a 7-year-old girl who can't afford a coach. Because when Elon Musk was 12 years old and he was growing up in South Africa, he didn't have access to a communication professional. If somebody helped Elon with his communication skills, he would be 10 times better today from a comms perspective. So that's my bigger mission. But what that ends up happening is because the information is free, it creates an equalizer. So think about me and my business. You're right, I am fairly young. So why is it that so many CEOs and executives who are double my age in the Valley or just in general, why do they hire me? Because I can show, not tell. People can watch my videos and say, oh, this guy's really, really good. I trust him now because he has that knowledge that he's already sharing. And what's also interesting, Tom, is the person who's going to watch a lot of your content and the person who's going to buy your service are actually very different customer profiles. Because the person who watches 10 of your videos, they're often trading a lot of their time because they have a lot of it. So they're going to watch a lot of your videos. But the person who, let's say, wants me to write their pitch deck, wants me to help them prep for a demo day, wants me to help get rid of their ums and ahs, they have money, but they don't have time. So they'll watch 2 videos and go, oh, this kid's really good. Let me just hire him directly. So that's how I think social media has become the greatest equalizer, and it's what's allowed me to develop so much success fairly early on.
Man, so a lot of these, so you are helping a lot of these VCs with their pitch decks and a lot of the consulting stuff, huh? That's pretty amazing. So what are the services? So, somebody listening, they're like, if they're in the venture space or like a tech CEO, because I'm assuming communication, but again, the communication part is so broad. You can go into anything, literally, whether it's entry-level employees, how they can get up the ladder, become in the management, how they can, or the management, how they can communicate their message to either the employees or the customers, right? There's so many wrong ways. I totally forgot, but there was the CEO for a mortgage company, I think Better.com or something like that. He fired like 9,000 people, and his communication was so terrible, and that wiped out his entire company's net worth at that time. I don't know whether he's still working there or what's the situation. But if I assume he's super busy and all that. If he's stumbled upon your video and he said, "Hey, Brenden, why don't you do that for me?" Wow, that would be, a very tiny expense that would have saved billions for the company. And I can't believe the implication that you could have had on that situation, right? So what are the services that? So let's go this way. From the executive perspective, from the C-level perspective, if they are watching, how can you help them?
For sure, Tom. We're going to talk a lot about those strategies too, but what we do is that we help a lot of executives and entrepreneurs really level up their communication skills. But to your point, that's broad. So what does that look like? That means 3 main things. One is presentation mastery. So a lot of our executives, they make a lot of mistakes whenever they speak. Lots of ums and ahs. They move their eyes all everywhere, all over the place. Their pacing is too quick. The vocal tones are too monotone. So we fix a lot of those basic techniques. The second piece is leadership mastery, right? So what I always tell executives, or really anybody, is presentations is not enough, Tom. It's one part of the equation, but the other is, how do you answer questions from a board? How do you answer questions from customers, from other executives who want to work for you? How do you attract talent through the way that you're communicating the vision of your business? And also, when you're being interviewed for a job, if you're an executive who wants to get promoted, we get bombarded with questions all the time. How do we give feedback? And then the third piece is relationship building mastery. So for example, if I tell an executive to smile in a presentation, or are you smiling? Are you bringing that same level of energy and enthusiasm when you're conveying ideas to people one-on-one or in small groups? That's what we help people do. And with some of my CEO clients, it's a much smaller group. We're usually in accelerators like Y Combinator or Techstars. Those people, I'll help them write their pitch so that when they go into demo day, they raise a lot of money.
Wow. So that's where also the demo day comes in, right? I think that used to be a little more popular before the recessionary timing, right? Everybody was pitching something, pitch decks, so many fundraising going on. But that's a little low now. So that brings the point. Your service is more than necessary now, because now you really need to stand out in order to raise money, right? Back in the days, you could like, oh, okay, you just, oh, okay, yeah, that guy looks good, okay, just give him some money, right? But now you gotta be right on, right? So this is very important. So the C level, it does not have to be an IBM executive or an Apple executive. It could be a startup founder that wants to raise funds, want to fine tune their presentation, their delivery, things like that. They come to you.
You got that right, Tom. Absolutely.
Okay. And wow, so this is fantastic. Now, how do you teach them? Like, is it one-on-one conversation, or like or it's a group therapy? Not therapy. Is it a group thing, or how does that work?
Absolutely, Tom. So it's a group program that we vet executives to join, where we're teaching them how to speak in very small groups, and then they have one-on-one calls with me personally, where I help them write their pitch. But in terms of the process, which people can take away as tips, for me, Tom, communication is like juggling 18 balls at the same time. Right? One of those balls is eye contact, one of them is smiling, one is body language, storytelling. So for me, the question has always been, what are the three easiest balls to juggle? Especially given that a lot of the executives that we know are in the engineering side. They're a lot more technical. They're not really the person who wants to stand in front of the camera and wants to communicate an idea. So how do we push them out of the comfort zone that anyone can do at home? So number one is the random word exercise. Pick a random word like light bulb, like home, like ceiling, and create random presentations out of thin air. Like phone, you give a 30-second presentation about phone. And the reason this is so effective is because one, Tom, it helps us deal with uncertainty in our life because life is filled with it. As a CEO of a company, you don't know what's going to happen
Yeah.
in your day to day. And the second reason is if you can make sense out of nonsense, you can make sense out of anything. So if you can talk about avocados for 30 seconds, when you have an investor meeting, when you have a key customer meetup or a dinner with them, you're able to quickly navigate those conversations a lot more fluidly. And then one other quick tip I'll give you as well, Tom, is an exercise we teach executives called question drills. I call this bulletproofing a deck. So let's say somebody's getting ready for a demo day. I'll sit with that founder and we'll ask them 100 questions about their business. What's your business model? What's your go-to-market? What's your monetization strategy? What is the real problem that you're solving? What's the secret sauce that you have that your competitors don't understand fully that you do? So we drill them on a bunch of questions. So when they get in front of investors, they have the answer to everything. But everyone can do that every day.
Wow. That gave me an idea. Even from the investor side, they're thinking, this guy's bulletproofing the folks that are presenting. Let me hire this guy to ask the questions on our behalf and see what happens, And then you get into this, like the lawyers, for the divorce attorneys, once you tap into that guy cannot represent the other party. Then you're like, no, I'm with the venture capitalist this time. I cannot represent the founder. But man, this is fantastic. So far we talked about the executive training, the pitch deck, whether it's the startup to large companies, doesn't matter. You're helping them. So to finish that up, the large companies, they have a different set of things. Communication for them, a lot of those are soft tones. Even if it's a layoff, it needs to be in a very softer voice. It needs to show they have the heart, not just they are thinking about the wallet, things like that, right? And then, are you helping people with that?
Absolutely, Tom. So for that, what I would say, this is a little bit more advanced, but for layoffs or bad news, this is the tips that we usually give. The first piece is a realization that bad news does not age like good wine. Okay, so you can't just let the bad news linger. You have to get to the point. It's not like wine. If you keep it wine for a long time, it actually gets better over time.
Yeah.
But bad news doesn't work that way. So you need to get to the point. But to your point as well, Tom, when we're delivering that message, we also need to use low vocal tones. We can't say, "Hey everyone, everyone's getting fired. This is great." Like nobody, right? There's a misaligned,
Yeah,
right?
I
But you
see.
also you can't go too low either, because if you get too low, you get into the better.com scenario where it feels like you're heartless. It feels like you don't care. It feels like you're displaying the emotion of someone who doesn't want to be there. So the key is a balance. And then the third piece is really about sympathizing with the person without fighting back. So we can't have them argue with us. We have to say, look, this is a decision, not a debate, but these are the consequences from this, and we'll work better to do better next time. And that's it.
Man, wow! I cannot believe your age. Wow, the information and the wisdom that you bring in. Wisdom comes with experience. But I'm like, how come this kid got so much experience so fast? He's experiencing life faster than us. But that's really good. I love the tips you give. These are very very. So now going back to the social media aspect of things, nowadays people like me that are fully into business to business software world, where I never really need to interact with consumers, because consumers are our consumers are businesses. So or go out on social media or say anything. People like me are coming out of the woods and they're like, oh, I gotta have a YouTube channel. I gotta have do some social media following. So in this space, I think you brought up Casey Neistat, one of your videos I saw. I was like, Casey Neistat? Because I was like, where did he disappear? And then he appeared on your video, and I was like, and the passion and things. So, in the social media space, I think this is not really a question, but a broader. I just wanted to get your thought on it, but whether it's a startup founder or a broader set of people that are just trying to get ahead in their career, get ahead in their company, or improve their job search, maybe look better in front of the potential employer, things like that. How could they use social media?
Absolutely, Tom. It's a fantastic question. So there's different layers in how we can approach that conversation, right? The first one is all about understanding what is the strength of the founder. So some founders in the Valley or just in general are really great communicators, right? David Friedberg said there's three main traits to any successful entrepreneur: grit, bias for action, and narrative, right? So grit just means you're really, really hardworking. Bias for action means you don't just sit there, you just make hundreds of different decisions to see what the right one is. And then the third piece is narrative, someone who's able to tell a great story and get people to follow their brand, almost like a cult. Steve Jobs is a great example of someone who's really good at narrative, who's able to pull people into his vision. So if you're an entrepreneur who's very strong at narrative or has some basic foundation, though I believe anyone can develop that, Tom, that's my internal belief. But if you have a little bit of that, definitely social media is useful, whether you're selling B2B or B2C. And the reason is really simple, because you're telling the story of your own journey, how you're building the brand. This is really effective B2C specifically because you're appealing to the heartstrings of the person you're speaking with. Airbnb does a good job with this, where they use their Airbnb host to tell the story of the brand for them. And I think that's a really powerful way to really use social media as a tool to get people to use it. And that's how Airbnb now is almost like a verb. It's almost like a noun. It's become synonymous with renting out the extra room in somebody's house. So that's one way of going about it. But I would even have an argument for B2B as well. And the reason is just because what the social media content allows us to do, Gary Vaynerchuk is a great example of this. Sure, we see all of his yelling and all that stuff, but what you don't see is that he's closing a lot of Fortune 500 clients without an RFP process in the back end. Because a lot like Mondelez and Pepsi, all these big companies, their CMO is watching Gary's content and they're saying, I just want to hire that person. They'll advocate for him in the vendor process to select the right agency. So we can all leverage social media to our advantage. Absolutely.
Wow, yeah, man. This is a beautiful thing you just said. And now that brings us to this thing. I always think about, social media. Back in our time, I saw Grant Cardone, but I don't know whether you know him. He's in the real estate space, right? He's also, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, the Wolf of Wall Street, the sales, the Jordan Belfort. The other one, the Canadian is Peterson, and the American one is Belfort. So the closing deals and things like that. And, one time I think I saw one of the videos where Grant Cardone and the Jordan Belfort, they meet and they're having this discussion. And Jordan Belfort has, he has better sales skills to some extent and to close and things like that. So Grant Cardone was in a tough spot. But one of the things I think Grant Cardone was trying to convey is the old days of selling where it's just a cold call is over. Your customer should know you inside out before you even call. And when you call, it's already closed. If Grant Cardone calls, I'm like, okay, what do you want, Grant Cardone? That's it. I know you inside out already. This is, whatever you want. So that's, I think, is the marketing aspect of it. It's not just the sales. I think you've got to bring the marketing aspect. And I think that's where you come in, because even if you're young, but people can watch so many of your content, can get tips, get connected, and can feel that, oh, I know Brenden, I got a pitch deck, I'm super busy, just go to him, So that kind of thing, I think social media is kind of helping you in your journey. Now, that also brings this thing, the global aspect of stuff. And I think you talked about, I watched you in one of the videos. You cannot eat macaroni in your friend's place or something like that? What is that all about?
Absolutely, Tom. So two parts. Let's get to the macaroni. But one other piece that you touched upon that I'd love to elaborate on is one of my mentors, Sharan Srinivasta. He says it so well. He says, fame is the most efficient business model in the world. And your point actually demonstrated that, where when somebody gets on a call with you and they already know you, they're not threatened by you. They're like, "Oh my God, I get to talk to Tom Style." Like it doesn't. They don't even care what you're selling. They just go. So they're ready. They're just excited to be there. I actually closed a corporate account 2 weeks ago. From that, I got on the call. She wasn't even asking me questions about my pricing or questions about my offer. She just said, "Oh my God, Brenden is so cool. I've been watching for a year. We're so excited to welcome you into this government. I'll tell you exactly how to sell this." Like she was already on my side, right? And that's really the power of fame, is that it's
Yeah.
the most efficient business model because the cost of acquisition is $0 and 0 cents, right? You just get in and they're there for you. They want to help you. In terms of the macaroni, so I'll tell you that story. So the story's around my mother, Tom. So me and my mom used to bicker all the time. We used to fight all the time. And one of the arguments we used to have around was me eating at my friend's house. So my mom always told me you couldn't eat food at my friend's house, like macaroni or something. And a lot of us would get frustrated about that as kids, right? We would look at the kids and say, "Oh my God, like why don't you let me eat macaroni?" But then one day what I did, Tom, is I sat her down and I asked her a simple question. Why? It's a three-letter word that nobody asks other people, Tom. Why? Does this bother you? And then she explained to me for 30 minutes. She explained why it bothered her, and it made perfect sense. She lived in a civil war, Tom, in Sri Lanka growing up as a kid there. So because of that, her doors were always locked. She wouldn't trust anybody. And then I looked at her and I said, after 30 minutes of listening to her, I said, "We don't live there anymore." And then I got to eat at my friend's house. So the moral of that story, Tom, is that a lot of us we have a lot of conflicts in our life, conflict resolution, right? We have conflicts with our family, conflicts with our founders, conflicts with our employees. But what a lot of us don't think enough about, Tom, is we focus on the argument. We don't focus on the vision. I call this relationship vision. Let's focus on what do we want that relationship to be, to look like. And I asked myself that day, well, I don't want to keep fighting with my mom. We haven't fought in over a decade at this point. But how am I going to change my behavior to be a better person for the people around me?
Man, that is a beautiful, beautiful story because that brings up oftentimes we are imposing our thoughts on other people. And especially if it's employees, we're like, "Oh, you have to do this, this, this." And I sincerely, back in our days, I used to work at a company where, 9 to 5 job, and you have to sign in, you have to punch in, punch out, right? I was closing a deal at a client place, so I did not punch in at 9, and my and I closed that deal. And my boss called at that time. "You were not in the office. You did not punch in." I'm like, "Dude, I just did so much for you, spending all that energy, and you were worried about punching in and punching out at 9 to 5." So in that scenario, if he took the time, and later on, I'm like, "Sorry, I'm not doing that for you. I'll do it for myself later," So if he took the time and said, "Hey, Tom, what's going on? Everything okay with you?" That would have been perfectly fine. Probably I would still be working for him. Thank God he did that way. But sometimes we are, and that's a very good story. Our parents, a lot of times, they have grown up differently. And a very different generation with no TikToks and even no YouTubes and with TV and things like that, right? Radio. And we are living in a whole different world where your communication is global the moment you put it, upload the video, right? So, and that kind of sometimes also creates the cultural aspect of things, where let's say we are, and especially in America or Canada, where it's so many different cultures. How do we communicate, right? And I'll tell you a funny story about this. This is I listen to these sales calls, Jordan Belfort and things like that. I'm very inspired, and I feel these are important. I hired a guy many years ago from China. He did not have good English communication, so he was making a call to a client. He just asked them the keywords like we search on Google. We don't write the full sentence. We just the keywords. He just said the keywords and expected a yes or a no. If it's a yes, then he asked them to email them, and he moved on with the process, and he closed the deal. I was like, Jesus Christ, what just happened here? If it was me, I would spend a lot of time. What happened, blah, 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 all that. And then finally we'll think about closing. But in his case, He says, I don't care. I just use efficient. He did not say it this way, but I'm thinking efficient mechanism he created, yeah, to get to the point, right? And sometimes I think you might have experienced that in your coaching career, how to efficiently get to the point. And sometimes investors or even people, they like the to the point, yeah, instead of going around the bushes, right? Yeah, yeah. So tell us a little more about what you think.
Absolutely, Tom. It's a fantastic point. I love that story. Here's a good way of thinking about it. A lot of employees, they speak in circles. Okay, they speak in circles. So let's say we ask them, hey, what's the update on this project? They go, oh, I went to this team and I talked to them and I got this. And then I went to this team and I got that. And then actually I learned this. And then the executive is just looking at them and going, wait, like, but what's the key outcome? Do you need help from me? So we're wasting a lot of time, right? Whereas what executives do really well, or at least the good ones, a lot of executives can learn this too, is they speak in pyramids. So what does pyramids mean? It means you go to the key points. Let's say somebody asks me, hey, Brenden, what's the update on this week's meeting? This is the key conclusion. These are the three key areas of impact. And these are the three reasons why this is important. Do you have any other questions or thoughts for me? So notice that's quick. It's a lot more efficient, right? And same thing with investing land. Hey, tell me a little bit more about your company. Oh, so I started in my basement and it was really cool. And I had this idea and you're just like, where is he going with the story? Versus going, this is what the company is, this is what it does, this is what the unique benefit is, and this is the long-term vision. Any questions or thoughts on that? So notice how it's a lot more faster. And especially, you could meet somebody who can angel invest in your company, but if you don't invest, or rather communicate that investment opportunity in less than 90 seconds, you might lose them for the rest of your life. So it's important to be prepared for those situations.
Man, that's so beautiful. You know so much stuff. You're very, very precise in your answers. Man, there's two things. I just want to get your thought into this. It's my personal conflict. I think of it, that efficient answer, which I just gave you an example of how he did it, and I said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Fantastic. You don't need any training. Just keep doing that. And then during the pandemic, I was watching Duck Dynasty. I don't know whether you watched that show. It's about Monroe, Louisiana, and there's Uncle Si and all that. And it's all about storytelling. Uncle Si is a storyteller, and the rest of the Robertson family, they tell stories that's just, you get into the zone and you listen for hours and hours. And it's just fun to listen to the story. And you want the story to keep on going, even though it does not have a key output like, oh, okay, this is the summary, this is it. It's just the journey and the story that goes on. And they closed so many deals, and they became so famous, and that probably brings up the point of how fame makes the sale with zero cost, right? Now, if I am starting out my career, right, where I say, I love the story side of things, I'm so much into it, and I also want to be efficient, like what Brenden said, the key points, very efficient communication. Which one to use when? And how do I kind of prepare my career should I be the storyteller or should I be the efficient guy? So that conflict, if somebody asks you, how do you kind of go around that?
For sure, Tom. The answer is it's always contextual. So for example, let's say that individual you mentioned, right? That person's really efficient, they get the job done. But that's not the person I want keynoting a conference. Because if that person gets up on a stage, you're going to say, oh my God, this guy's not inspiring anybody. But the other part is Steve Jobs, because Steve Jobs was good at both.
Yeah.
Right? That's really the key. You have to be good at both. So when you're storytelling, let's say, and you're introducing the first iPhone, you're taking your time, you're doing the pacing, you're talking about there's a phone, there's music, there's internet. These are not three devices, it's one device, and we're calling it the iPhone. And then when you're managing the iPhone team internally within Apple, Steve Jobs isn't talking like there's a phone, he's like, hey, you better get the product done in 3 months or you're fired. So notice how that communication is dependent on the context that we're in. But to keep it really simple for the audience today, Tom, for me, communication is like juggling 18 balls. And we already talked about the 3 easy balls, the random word exercise. Pick a word like light bulb, like home, like startup, create random presentation. We talked about the question drill. Ask yourself one question every day That's actually how I got really good at my craft every day, because every day I would just ask, what's one question Tom's going to ask me about communication?
Yeah.
Every single day, somebody would ask me. But if you do that for a year, Tom, you'll have answered 365 questions about your industry. You'll be bulletproof. There isn't a single investor who can ask you a question about your business that you won't know the answer to. And then the video message, which is send video messages to your key customers, to key employees, to key clients, just to show your appreciation for them, to family members. But the problem, Tom, is not the information. The problem is in the implementation. Right now, the people listening to this are not booking 15 minutes in their calendar every single day to do the random word exercise, to do the question drill, to send the video messages. And if you do that just 15 minutes a day in 30 days, your communication skills will improve drastically. And that's why I always say that if you communicate 20% better than your competition, you will stand out 100% of the time.
Wow, I think that's what people got to remember. If you are 20% better, you're going to stand out 100% of the time. Wow, that's a very strong message. That's fantastic. So, Brenden, okay, so you gave us a lot of tips: the random word exercise, the question, so those two, and then the video messaging, right? So, one of the things you did was videotaping yourself and getting better at talking to the camera. So this is something, I hate cameras, and I hate people videotaping me because I'm never prepared or whatever I'm doing. And so this was always my thing. For somebody that was in that situation, or somebody just starting out, they're like, okay, man, I don't know. It could be embarrassing, especially embarrassing part. And that could be in a couple of different ways. One is if you're starting out your career, it's embarrassing, but nobody cares. It's okay. But then the other one is if you are already in a position where you have lots of employees, and if you embarrass yourself, it could actually jeopardize financially, right? So that could be people say, I don't want to work for that guy anymore. Hey, did you see the video he did? Oh my God, it's awful. This is it. I'm quitting. And that's one. And then the customers, they're like, oh no, we can't do business with that guy. Let's call Gary V. So those are financial implications that's there. Now somebody that want to pursue that path, what do you say that person, how to prepare themselves for that?
For sure, Tom. And take it from somebody like me. I was terrible my first year on video. That's why I keep all my old videos on my YouTube channel so people can go see where I started, which is literally on a couch in my mother's basement when I didn't have any money. I didn't have the clients I have today. I didn't have the success. I was just making videos. So for me, it starts with sending video messages privately. So it's not about social media. It's about just making a list of 5 people that you already know and love in your life and sending them 20-second notes. But what's nice about that is that there's no score. There's no score because publicly no one's going to know you're making videos. That's one. Number 2 is to build up that muscle over time. So what will happen is when you start creating content, if you're not comfortable sharing it publicly, you don't have to. The most important thing is to build the muscle, meaning start a YouTube channel, but make all the videos private. Nobody needs to see them until you're happy with them. Which brings me to the third point is understand the impact you can make with camera. I had every excuse in the book, Tom, not to start Master Talk. I was a 22-year-old kid. I have a crooked left arm, a physical disability. I spoke French my whole life. I studied in a subject that has nothing to do with communication. I'm a graduate in accounting. Why did I think I could coach technology CEOs, right? Today I coach high-level executives at AWS and Facebook and all these big companies. Why did I think I could be that person? I'm literally the opposite of what you would think. So for me, what happened is I realized the impact I could create with video. Because at some point I was coaching so many people that I started burning out. And I still love coaching. There's nothing wrong with that. But the challenge was, what about the 7-year-old girl in Cambodia who needs my help, who needs communication tips? What am I doing for her? And I realized that other coaches in my industry didn't really care about that 7-year-old girl because you can't make money. You can't charge that kid thousands of dollars to work with you. So I thought to myself, even if I'm not perfect, even if I'm not great, my mentor always says success takes courage. That's it. So for me, it was all about saying, you know what? Let me just start making videos for that girl. I don't care about the executive. Let me just make videos for that girl. And then eventually, there's a great quote on this by Ali Gadet, Tom, which is, if you help one person, the world will give you permission to help everyone else. So I encourage you to be that person. Help that one person, and then you'll gradually get to where you want to be on camera.
Wow, man, that's very, very inspiring. And that's why your story kind of, it resonates that how you've overcome the difficulties, the obstacles to get to the next level. And that gave you the strength from accounting to, now the communication. And that's a big thing. And you're not focusing on the profit in the short term. You're thinking about building an impact, having an impact on the community. This is so inspiring, man. That's fantastic. Now, to lighten things up, audience participation. You had a very interesting topic on that. I think you were presenting in front of some teenage girls, and then you had them participate. I'm like, that's impossible. How in the world you make teenage girls listen to you about communication? I don't know whether Steve Jobs could have pulled it off. I don't know how that happened. So, tell us a little more about the audience. How do you get them engaged by making them participate and things like that?
Absolutely, Tom. And yes, that story was a funny one. That was earlier in my career. Believe it or not, Tom, because I wasn't as sharp as I am today. Back then, when they asked me to come speak at that event, I went to an 8 a.m. meeting on a Sunday with a suit on, with a suit to present to teenage girls. So it didn't go so well. I learned a lot. And what I learned, Tom, is that communication and messaging is an iterative process, kind of like product, right? It's an iterative process. So for me, the three parts of communication and engaging an audience, whether it's teenage girls, whether it's executives, is threefold. Number one is, are people listening to my ideas? But that's usually what most people focus on. They don't focus on question two and question three, which are people taking action on my ideas? And number three, are people sharing my ideas with other people? Let me give you a simple example to demonstrate this, Tom. Let's say I have a cupcake recipe and I'm sharing my cupcake recipe with 100 people in an audience. And I go, this is the cupcake recipe. These are the ingredients. This is everything you need to be doing. Okay, bye everyone. So I tell them the recipe and I leave. And then next week, Tom, I ask everyone, hey, who used the cupcake recipe? Nobody used it. And I go, what do you mean? I worked so hard to come up with that presentation. And they go, oh, Brenden, it was too confusing. There was too many steps. I didn't want to do it. Oh, I don't really want to learn this. There's too many ingredients. It's too complex. And I have 7 kids, so I couldn't make the cupcakes this week. And I said, oh my God, how do I change this? So I went back to the drawing board, and then I started changing the messaging of my pitch to make it sound something more like, this recipe, Tom, only takes 5 minutes to make. If you put all the ingredients together, there's only 3 ingredients. It's going to be simple. It's going to be easy. You're going to do it with your kids so that you can all enjoy this quality time together. So I encourage all of you today. Notice how what I'm doing here is I'm pushing them into action now. I'm not just giving information. I'm saying, why don't you try this recipe? It's going to change your life. I did this with my family the other day, and the cupcakes came out just great. It doesn't matter if you're not an experienced baker. It doesn't matter if you're not the best chef in the world. So what's happening is we're taking that same audience, Tom, and now we're engaging them in the way that makes them go, oh, I'm not a baker, but Brenden is telling me I can do this recipe. Let me try this. And that's how we get people to take action and share ideas with the world.
Wow. Yeah, taking action because what's the point of communicating? We're thinking all these. That brings up this question. That's more for your career path. It's because you started in a very broader spectrum of things, communications, whether it's coaching, consulting, whether the corporate CEOs, so many aspects of communication that comes in. Where do you see, how do you want to build this Brenden impact circle, right? Right. So when you think of, I'll give you a couple of examples, like Gary Vee, you know that he's going to talk about some marketing, his wine company, and something about social media messaging, something like that. You think of Jordan Belfort, you're like, oh, he's going to teach you how to sell, right? Grant Cardone, he's going to do the marketing and the real estate, that aspect. And so I'm trying to figure out, but when I think of Brenden, he's like communication tips and tricks, and the nuggets of communication. That's what I'm going to get from Brenden. So where do you see you taking this brand in the next 10 years? Like, what's the plan?
Absolutely, Tom. And there's two parts to that, right? One is more privately what I'll do with the people I get to impact, and then the world. So let's start privately. For me, the mission of Master Talk is to empower every genius in our society to become an exceptional communicator. I think it's unacceptable for somebody like Elon Musk to be a terrible communicator because we look at the exception, not the norm. Okay, Elon is a category of one. He's managing three to five different billion-dollar companies at the same time. Most people can barely manage one and become successful. And he's a terrible communicator, but most people, if they're bad at communication, they won't get the deal flow, they won't get the results that we're looking for, and they won't get the buy-in from the people around them. So privately, what that looks like in my practice, the people I can actually coach on a deeper level is going to be people in bigger incubators where I believe those 10,000 geniuses are. So for example, I'm working on striking a deal with Y Combinator because a lot of the geniuses are in there. So it's like if I just
Mhm.
coach them, so my network is helping me get into that, but we're having trouble breaking in. But that's one example, right? Another one is to work with prodigy kids within like the Knowledge Society in Mensa, right? Schwartzman scholars, a lot of the people where I feel those geniuses are going to come from. And then, of
Mhm.
course, a lot of the incubator relationships I have. But now it's more, let's talk about the vision, right? Where do we see this going? So let me start with this and then I'll tell you a personal story, Tom. When Dale Carnegie was alive, he was the me of that era, right? He shared a lot of communication tips, relationship building tips. But the challenge is that he couldn't share that knowledge in a podcast with the Tom style, right? He couldn't do an interview with Tom. He couldn't do a podcast. He didn't do a YouTube channel because those technologies weren't available. So we don't even know how Dale Carnegie sounds like. Whereas me, I have an opportunity in this life to finish what Dale Carnegie started. Because now my voice, my image, my body, everything that I share is available hundreds of years after I'm gone. So the last piece that really solidifies my vision, Tom, is a story that I'll tell you. And the story is about Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift in 2015, right? She wins this award called Billboard, right? It's a company called Billboard. She wins an award called Woman of the Year. And she gets up on that stage, Tom. She looks at the audience and says, "Your future Woman of the Year is 10 years old right now, is 12 years old right now. And if we take care of her, she'll be a great star." And then 7 years later, Billie Eilish becomes the youngest inductee in Billboard's history to win Woman of the Year at the age of 17. So she gets up on stage, she has her big jacket on, she's rambling, and she's telling everybody, "Thank you for this award." And then at the end, Tom, she says something that changes my life. She goes, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. When I was a kid, I was watching Taylor's speech, her talk, and I was 10 years old and I had big dreams to be a singer. And all of you took care of me, so thank you." And that really moved me because when Elon Musk was 12 years old, nobody took care of him. Nobody said, "Hey, Elon, you're going to be a big star someday. Somebody should help you with your communication." In the same way, by the way, Tom, there's an Elon right now who's 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, who might be in Cambodia, might be in Laos, might be in South Africa, that also can't afford a coach. So my job is to make sure that all of those people grow up to become exceptional communicators because that's what will move the human race forward.
Wow, that's powerful message, man. Brenden, you are this is fantastic. You have the philanthropic side and you have the financial side, and you're combining both. And man, that's so inspiring. This is fantastic. So, Brenden, so that's your vision for Master Talk. Now, are you so for the audience? How do they get in touch with you? They just YouTube, they subscribe and to Master Talk. Brenden Kumarasamy reach out to you through LinkedIn, do you have any other? So I think there are different tiers of your program where there's executives and there are different companies, corporate parts. But how about like regular folks like Tom? I'm like, "Hey, Brandon, I got something coming up, and I get in touch with you. How do I do that?"
Absolutely, Tom. Well, first of all, it's so great to be on the show. Thanks for having me. And yes, you had mentioned a lot of the key places to keep in touch, like YouTube. You can go to Master Talk. One other thing that I'll mention as well that people can take advantage of, Tom, is I do a free communication workshop every 2 weeks over Zoom, and these are live calls, and they're free, right? So I'm just sharing tips. So some people who come to these calls are 8-year-olds. Some of them are CEOs of $100 million companies, right? Everyone, it's the whole spectrum. So if you're somebody who just wants to get better at speaking, you want to see me in action on a Zoom call, I would encourage you to register for one of those free trainings. Just go to rockstarcommunicator.com.
Rockstarcommunicator.com. Wow. Yes. Now I can kind of connect. Brenden Kumarasamy, the rockstar communicator from Master Talk. Thank you, Brenden. We really appreciate having you, and we want to see you back whenever you come to California to meet your clients in Y Combinator and all over the place. Come over here. We want to see you. This is fantastic, and folks, communication is the key. If you want to get a raise, if you want to motivate your employees. If you don't want your company's net worth to disappear like better.com, you gotta hire Brenden. You gotta get in touch with him, or at least watch his videos and get some of those tips. Use it. Wonderful, wonderful guy. He's the next star, the rock star, next rock star. Brenden Kumarasamy. Thank you, folks. Please subscribe.